How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Riley's Red Zone, and in today's video we're going to go over every Week 14 NFL game. I can't believe we're this far into the season already, and so I have another guest picker on this week, and I'm going to give my thoughts on the game as well. So let's start with a quick recap of last week before we get into this week's slate. So last week was not the strongest week for both me and Carson, the guest picker. We both went 7-6. We didn't pick the same matchups, but there were a number of upsets in the league. It just wasn't the ones we expected. And so my overall record now is 119-74, which I'll still take. But as said, it was those upsets. It was a bad week for my upset picks. I did go 0 for 3. Two of them were close. The Jets over the Falcons was really close, and the Titans over the Colts was about as close as you can get in overtime. But now I'm 20 for 44 on upset picks, hoping to right that ship this week. I do have quite a lot of them, so we'll see if that ends up happening. And Carson, now you can see the guest pick standings, but kind of lands there in the middle. But we've got somebody who's going to try to get to the top of this leaderboard. This week we have someone who was the first guest picker last season. We have him back on for this year. We've got Charlie in for today's pick. So he sent me what we have. We do have a number of games that we have different picks on, so it's going to be interesting to see the final results. So let's get talking about some football, starting with the Thursday night matchup, the Patriots and the Steelers, the backup bowl, if you want to call it this. This is crazy, the circumstances we've gotten under here with Kenny Pickett getting hurt. It looks like it's going to be Mitchell Trubisky for the Steelers, and the Patriots, I believe, are kind of sticking with Bailey Zappi now at this point. That's the direction they're going. Interested if they'll ever work in Malik Cunningham or not. But at the moment, it looks like it's going to be Bailey Zappi versus Mitchell Trubisky. The Steelers, after last week's, the previous good performance on offense after they got rid of Canada, I was really thinking that they maybe were going to be turning a new leaf this season, and that was going to be kind of a stepping stone for them. But they seem that with an injury, that changes things. But they're playing the Patriots. They're 6-point favorites here, the Steelers are. And the Patriots just can't do anything for me. They lose, that absolutely low-scoring game against the Chargers last week. And so I can't really pick the Patriots in many matchups, so I will take the Steelers, and so does Charlie. So that's a sweep there in the first game. 6-point favorites are the Steelers. The second game, okay, so another one. Now we got two games where quarterback injuries play a huge part. Jaguars and Browns. Let's start with the Browns because there's a little bit more clarity of that. Obviously, Deshaun Watson gets hurt a couple of weeks ago, and he's done for the season. So Joe Flacco rolls in now after DTR couldn't go and actually performed, I thought, all right. Now, of course, the Rams did get that win, but put up a decent performance early. I think they're going to stick with him over DTR right now just because their defense is so good that if you can just keep them in the game, you'll be all right. Now, the Jaguars, unfortunately, have a tough situation that on Monday night, they had Trevor Lawrence playing really well, and then he gets stepped on by his own teammate. Ankle injury. Week to week is what it maybe seems at this point. So right now, they're not the same team that they were. But that's really unfortunate because they were going to be in position for the 1 seed if they won that game. But they didn't do it, and so the Bengals took that one. This is a really even matchup, two teams without their quarterbacks. I just think that I like the Browns' defense and QB situation backup-wise a little bit better than what they have with Jacksonville, but this should be a close one. I'm going to take the Browns in this one. They're favored by 3. Charlie is taking the Jaguars. Now, this was slightly before the injury, but I was like, do you want to watch the Monday night games? He said, I'm going to give it to you right now. He had some confidence. So I think he's going to stick with this because he would let me know if it does change, but he's going with the Jaguars here. They're still a great team, so this could go either direction. Lions, Bears. The Lions are a team that have a great record, have a lot of good games, but they haven't really pulled out a huge win in a little while that is either against a great team or in a large amount of points, it seems like, these last few games, including the Bears game just a few weeks ago. But also last week against the Saints, they climb out to a huge lead, aren't able to quite hold on super long because the Saints kind of dig out of that hole and start getting close, but Shocked they're only 3-point favorites here, although Justin Fields has sparked a little bit of confidence in that Bears offense. I think the last time they were on the field, they beat the Vikings. So they have shown that they can win with Justin Fields, and the week before that, they were pretty close to beating the Lions. So this could be either way. It's at Soldier Field as well. But I'm going to go with the Lions in this one. I expect a very close one. If there is a game for the Bears to win, if they win this one, it might be, showing that Justin Fields is maybe he's going to try to prove that he's the future, because the Bears are going to have the number one pick likely with the Panthers anyways. So imagine if they can get a star player and they have their franchise quarterback already there. That would be great for them. So he's going to be trying to prove that. So I could see this going anyway, but both of us have the Lions in this matchup. Falcons, Bucks. Two teams that this whole NFC South is just a turnstile every week. I mean, I don't know who is supposed to win it every single week. I mean, at the beginning, it looked like the Saints had a clear path. Then the Falcons had it. Then they had a QB issue. And then it's like the Bucks, maybe they still have a chance. The Panthers weren't even mathematically eliminated until about last week. So it's been so up and down for this whole division. And so when you get these division games, it's super tough. The Falcons, when they scheme up a good game plan, they can do pretty well. But last week, they only beat the Jets by 5, or I believe it was. That was, either way, it was a low-scoring game, and it was just shocking that happened. It's like the Jets have a good defense, but they couldn't do anything on offense, the Jets-wise, and so let's put some points on the board, Atlanta. So they can't really score much. The Bucks have been keeping it close in these games, so this could be something where the Bucks are just really gritty and pull it out. But I'm gonna go with the Falcons, and so is Charlie. The Bucks, I'm just thinking they barely beat the Panthers last week. They're on the road. If this game was at home, I would probably take the Bucks. That was the deciding factor in this game for me. So I'll take the Falcons in pulling away a little bit with the NFC South, but not by much, once again, because there's so many NFC South matchups. Winner's probably going to have at most like 8 or 9 wins, I would say, the way the rate is going. So I'll take the Falcons. Charlie takes the Falcons. That's going to be an interesting game. This next one, the Texans and the Jets. 5.5 points are the Texans, and they have been on fire. They are a true playoff contender to me at this point, that if they can get on a 4-game win streak in January, I mean, they could take this thing home. They have a serious shot. They have their QB of the future. Pulls it off. The win last week against Denver, that was a great game to watch. I mean, Broncos still played really well, but defense came in clutch for the Texans, which is great for them now that they have that offensive capability, but also the defensive capability. So the Jets, on the other hand, have about I don't know what the heck is going on with this quarterback situation right now. I mean, they just cut the guy who started the game for them last week, and I even predicted last week they'd go to Simeon. They do go to Simeon at the end, and he's throwing 5-yard checkdowns on 4th down and 20. So that is not the way to go. They signed Brett Rippon off the Seahawks practice squad, and they still have Zach Wilson, who now there's reports of like he's refusing to play. I personally don't think those sources have really been confirmed yet, but if that is true, there's sides of like, yeah, I mean, they blamed them for the problem, then they play worse without it. The biggest mistake of the entire season, and I'll tell you this, I think it was still smart to start Zach Wilson for that beginning stretch after Rodgers got hurt, but at least not going out by the trade deadline and getting a solid backup like a Jacoby Brissett, signing Joe Flacco off the street. I mean, those were options, and they didn't go with that. And so they should have at least gotten a better backup plan, in my opinion. But where we're at now, I don't know if they're going to be able to move the football. But if Zach Wilson's in, I think they have a better shot. But I got to go with the Texans here. I just can't trust the Jets to move the offense right now. And so Charlie's also going with the Texans there. That's a Texans sweep. Panthers, Saints. We talk about the NFC South madness. Anything can happen each week. Panthers can't quite pull off the interim head coach kind of shocker that some other teams have and win, but they did cover for what that's worth. I think that there was a stat I've seen that interim head coaches in their first game have covered the last however many games, because as I mentioned last week, there is a lot of spark when you maybe get rid of a guy who was a problem. And we don't know what the biggest problem was in Carolina. I think the whole thing's a problem right now. But you just get a fresh face in there, and that might spark something. The Saints, of course, have the Derek Carr injury last week, so there's still some health concerns there at the quarterback position. And I just haven't seen that electricity as of late. Have the Panthers, I have them ranked dead last in the power rankings right now for where I'm using to pick the games, but I think that this is one that could be a very close game. This has potential upset written all over it, and if the Panthers were at home, I could see this happening, but because it's in New Orleans, I have to go with the Saints still. I'm going to take the Saints in this one, keep the South close, so is Charlie. I was so close to pulling an upset on this one, but this week, I've already got a number of upsets that I didn't even have to break the formula to pick. So I'm going to go with the Saints. This one I could see being a very sluggish affair. Ravens. A 7-point spread is a little shocking to me, even though the Rams are, like, the Ravens are a great team, but the fact that they're favored by 7 is interesting compared to some of these other spreads. But Lamar is playing like an MVP right now. If it were my vote at the moment, he's got it. And so they look like a phenomenal team that's firing on all cylinders. The Rams also look good since Stafford has been back in the lineup. Little injury scare for Puka Nacua, but he's back. They got him. Kyron Williams is back. They're going to be a solid team. I think that they can even make the playoffs here and potentially cause an upset. But for right now, I think the Ravens might be one of the top 3 teams is what I've got them at right now in the league. And so I really think that they are a force to be reckoned with. I'm going to go with the Ravens, and they continue that streak, and so is Charlie in this matchup. But next, we got a little bit of a disagreement. This one, I had to use the at-home kind of overturn rule in my formula for how I'm picking these games. Colts-Bengals. The Colts just keep winning, and it's shocking every time, honestly. Like, their roster does not look like they should be winning all these games, but their record is really solid right now. I mean, they are looking like they're going to make the playoffs. Minshew and Taylor, Minshew is winning, and then after Taylor injury, Moss still gets in there, and they're still moving on offense. But they're playing the Bengals, who sneakily pull off this upset win against the Jaguars last week, seemingly out of nowhere, with Jake Browning, who was balling out there, looking like he was at Washington still. I mean, underrated storyline in this game. We got the rematch of the Apple Cup quarterbacks. We got Minshew and Browning. That's pretty cool. But 1-point underdogs are the Bengals, but their defense is still, I think, if they can come and clutch a couple stops. Browning is moving the ball a little bit. Chase is still a weapon on the outside, and Joe Mixon has been putting up a solid season. I'm going to go with the Bengals at home in the jungle for this upset pick. Charlie is going to go with the Colts in this one, although I expect a very, very close game. Only 1 point. The Colts are currently favored in this one. I'll take the upset, though, in the Bengals. Seahawks and 49ers. The 49ers, I've got them ranked number 1 right now. They just beat the Eagles, and they look like a team that is maybe unstoppable. I think that this team feels like a team that could go all the way come January, but we don't know that yet. It's at home here, and which is key for, I think the Seahawks have fallen down a little bit. They still put up some points against Dallas last week, but I just don't see kind of a star power level to this team and just the consistency. So I'm going to go with the Niners in this one. I think they're a solid team, and they're playing really good football. 10.5-point favorites. I'll take them as well. Charlie is also. Vikings Raiders. Vikings last game they were out there put up a kind of a dud performance against the Bears, and really kind of disappointed there. But I'm going to be honest, I think that was a little bit that was on the lower side, but closer to the average, I think, of what we'll see from that team is the defense giving a shot, and it's going to be, can the offense take advantage? I think the Broncos game was maybe the most expected outcome for what I think the team will look like overall. And so I think that you just got to land somewhere in that range and they'll win some games. But the Raiders are a sneaky team. They've been losing against some like solid teams, but since they made the coaching change, they have a little bit of explosiveness that they can take advantage of. Still have Max Crosby on defense is playing well. They have O'Connell at quarterback is still at least moving it at times. They have Jacobs and Adams still on offense. I'm going to use the at-home rule here in my rankings that if a team is at home and only one tier below a team that I've ranked higher, like in this case, I'm going to take the home team. So I'm going to take the Las Vegas Raiders, who are 3-point underdogs against the Minnesota Vikings. I think that this is just a sneaky game for them. And the Vikings are going to need to show up on offense if they want to win, and they certainly can do that. I just need to see it a little bit more because we've seen 2 great weeks and 2 or bad weeks from Dobbs-led offense. But he's shown he can do it. Let's just see if he can maybe, get back in the majority good games. But Charlie's going to go with the Vikings, the favorites here. I think that'll be an interesting game to watch for sure. Might be down to the wire. Bills-Chiefs. This one should also be a sneaky one. We got some teams that are coming off some difficult kind of losses here. We have the Chiefs, who kept it close with the Packers, but they couldn't get it done. I mean, that was shocking that they lost that game. I mean, yeah, there was some controversy at the end as well, but you got to go out and win that game as well. Definitely interesting reffing situation at the end there. And also the Bills, that they had that heartbreaker against Philadelphia and haven't gotten it done. Josh Allen hasn't won an overtime game. And so 2.5-point favorites here are the Chiefs, saying this could come down to a field goal. Could go into overtime here. We've seen it with these teams before. This, I think, is a get-back game for both of these teams. It's whoever wins this really kind of controls a little bit of the playoff picture and really takes a lead. Now, it doesn't mean, I don't think, as much for the Broncos. They have a little bit more of a chance at their division, for the Chiefs in their division, because the Broncos are the next closest team to them, and they still have like a 1 or 2 game advantage, but they're a little bit closer in range here. They could use that. The Bills, if they are kind of, to me, out of playoff winning the division shot, but maybe they can still squeak in the playoffs there. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I think that this is their opportunity to take a little bit of a lead, which is tough for Buffalo if you start falling there. Charlie's got the Bills. This is going to be an interesting one for sure. I expect a high scoring, as said, could even come down to a field goal or overtime. Should be a high scoring matchup. And speaking of the NFC West, let's talk about this Broncos-Chargers game. I got to be honest. I don't know if I need a new prescription. I can't believe this line right here. I can't believe personally that the Chargers are favored by 2.5 against the Broncos. I mean, have we been watching the same games? I mean, let me just double check here. How many points did 6? Yeah, the Chargers scored 6 points. I mean, what? I am confused personally. Now, this could look bad in a week if I'm saying this, but like, this would be my hammer the underdog here. I'm going all the way. The Broncos, yes, they lose against the Texans, but they had the biggest winning streak. They still put up a great offensive performance. Now, the Chargers are at home, which is obviously a potential advantage, but I don't think they have the best home crowd in general. I am absolutely shocked that the Broncos are just not favored. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if the Chargers fully pulled off a win here, but it's more so I'm saying this line, that it's unanimous, the Chargers are favored by 2.5, is wild to me. I'm going to take the Broncos all the way. I think their offense is still going. Even that when they struggled last week, to win at the end, they still put up a great performance. They got them that far. It was a high-scoring game, and he got them down the field. It was really nothing you could do. There was a lot of pressure in Russell's face, and it just kind of got down to you had to try something. So I'll take the Broncos. Charlie's got the Chargers here, which once again could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers won, but it's more just the spread being that direction. Is there something I don't know? I am unsure, but I'm absolutely taking the underdog in that one. Eagles, Cowboys. This is one where it's gone how I kind of thought it would, and it's come to the time where I'm going to do what I said weeks ago, which was when the Eagles are at home, I took the Eagles. They won. And I said in that video, when the Cowboys are at home, I'm probably going to take the Cowboys. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I think this is 2 of the top 5 teams for me, I think, in that range. This is a great matchup. We have obviously seen the Eagles win this already this season, but at home, the Cowboys are playing well. The Eagles just have been playing too many close games for me. Even this first matchup was a little bit close. I'm going to take the Cowboys, and that would be a 2-loss streak for the Eagles, which makes it interesting in the NFC with the Niners and the Cowboys too. This is still a race up for grabs to win. So I'm going to take the Cowboys. I just think their defense is playing really well with Micah Parsons, but Dak is a sneaky MVP candidate. I think he's in the top 3 right now. Right now, I'd have Lamar, as mentioned earlier, Dak, and one more quarterback we'll talk about in a few games here to close out the video, or someone else on his team you could also pick. But I think Dak is playing really, really well. I'm going to take him and his team. Charlie has the Eagles, so another split one here where that could change up the standings a little bit. This next game, Packers-Giants. Giants are still going to go with Tommy DeVito, but they are at least winning some games, which is good for them. But the Packers are playing like one of the best teams in the league right now. They've been playing really, really good as of late, and Jordan Love is playing like a franchise quarterback. I mean, they are looking like they could cause some damage in the playoffs if they get in. I could see them winning a few games. I just picked up their defense in a fantasy league because they have some good matchups over the next few weeks. I think that they are going to easily, even though I believe they're outside right now at that maybe 8th position, I think they're going to sneak in. Like if I had to honestly right now pick them or the Vikings the rest of the season, I'm probably leaning the Packers. And over the Rams, I would also probably lean the Packers. Over the Seahawks, I'd probably lean the Packers right now. It's somewhere in there. I think that the Rams and the Packers might end up being the wild card teams besides the NFC East team that doesn't win. Packers are playing really well. I got to give credit to them. I'm going to take the Packers here. We both do. I mean, they are just playing really good football as of late. And let's close it out with the Titans-Dolphins. Both of those are Monday night doubleheader. I don't love that they're the same time again. It's like, why? I want to watch all the football games. Now I got to split screen it on my monitor or something. I mean, that's going to be a little bit. I like it when it's all one spot. But Dolphins are 13.5-point favorites. Now, the Titans, of course, played that super close overtime game last week, but this is a different animal. The Dolphins are looking explosive on offense. Tua in the MVP conversation for me, or Tyreek Hill. You could throw those two both up there. They're great options on offense. I just think that you got to go with them. They're playing like one of the best teams in the league right now. I'm going to go ahead and take the Dolphins in this matchup. So is Charlie. So those are the picks for this week. I got another 3 upsets on the board. Hopefully that some of those can work out. It should be a fun matchup of football. So it's going to be interesting next video for the next week's picks. I should be back in the kind of regular studio for a bit, and it will probably take up, now that I think about it, into the playoffs potentially. So we'll get a little different setup starting next week. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.